Hi, everyone. Steve Adubato. For the entire program, we'll be talking to a very compelling, interesting, and some argue provocative commentator and author. She is Batya Ungar-Sargon, an author of the book Second Class: How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. Batya, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's really an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
You got Batya. Who the heck are the elites, and are the elites us? No, sure. Who are these elites?
We are definitely in the elites. The way that I define elites in the book is to reflect a divide that has emerged in America, a class divide in a country that likes to think of itself as classless. Indeed, that began as a revolt against the class society of Europe in the old countries. And this class divide separates out Americans by income, by home ownership, by health, by how long they will live. The simple fact in American life today is that if you have a college degree, you will live longer, you will be healthier, you will be much more likely to become a homeowner later in life. Your life will be insulated from crime, violent crime, from deaths of despair, from addiction. And in general, you will have access to the American dream. Whereas if you don't have a college degree, if you work with your hands for a living, if you are working class and you work full time, but in a job that doesn't require skills in the knowledge industry, you will live a shorter life. You will be much less healthy, much less likely to be a homeowner. You will be plagued by crime and deaths of despair, and simply not have as much access to the American dream.
You've used the term American dream several times. And in the book, in many ways, I think you redefine the American dream. Is it different than what people perceived it to be 10, 20, 30 plus years ago? What's the American dream in 2024?
I don't think it has changed dramatically. What has changed dramatically is the ability of people without a college degree to achieve the American dream. So the way that I define American dream in the book is the way that the vast majority of Americans would define it. Living the American dream means you own your own home, you will be able to retire in dignity, you have access to affordable health care, and your children have at least as many opportunities as you did. That's it.
Educationally? Our children have every opportunity educationally and in their careers?
Exactly. The same opportunities we did.
But Batya, respectfully, even if someone agrees with everything you just said so far, how have the so-called elites given the shaft to working men and women? What have we done to them, according to you?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because that is at the heart of the book. In 1971, which was the high water mark for working class wages, since then they started to stagnate and then to fall if you factor in inflation. In 1971, the largest share of the GDP in America was in the middle class. That was where most of the GDP was.
GDP, gross domestic product.
Exactly. Most of the money in America was held and owned by the middle class. Now, what happened between 1971 and today? Well, people in our class, in the top 20% and the educated elites, we like to rail against the billionaires, right? And say, oh, the billionaires, they took all this money that used to be in the middle class and now it's gone to the billionaires and corporate America, blah, blah, blah. It's actually not true. If you compare the share of the economy, the share of the GDP that is controlled by billionaires between 1971 and today, it has not changed significantly. So where did all that GDP go that used to be in the middle? Well, the middle class is gone now, but it hasn't gone to the billionaires.
There is no middle class?
The middle class has been squeezed. And so where the largest share of the GDP used to be in the middle, today over 50% of the GDP, that's over half of the economy, half of the money controlled by Americans, it's not the billionaires, it's the top 20%. People with 1 degree, 2 degrees, people who are in professional jobs or in the knowledge industry. So they got squeezed up from the middle, and people without a college degree got squeezed down. That's what happened. And that's why I call it a betrayal, because that squeezing up of the professional class happened through very intentional policy that was enacted by Democratic presidents.
Oh, no, so it's the Democrats. It's not just the elites. It's the Democrats who are elites, not the Republicans who are elites. Explain that part to us, Batya.
Yeah. So when you talk to working class people, which I did for the book, I traveled around the
Yeah,
country
explain what you did, because that's fascinating, because you traveled across the country and spoke to all and named who these people are, which is fascinating. Please, Batya.
I traveled around the country. I interviewed about 100 working class people of all political persuasions, Democrats, Republicans, progressives, just all across the spectrum, from all races, from all religions, in many, many different industries. And first of all, the most surprising thing I found, Steve, was that very little distinguishes working class people who vote for Democrats from working class people who vote for Republicans. They are in agreement on the vast majority of the issues. So I'll just give you two examples, okay? I spent a lot of time with a woman named Amy, a gay certified nurse's aide who lives in Florida, who's married to a woman, of course. And I spoke to a woman called Linda, a very, very staunch Trump supporter who lives in West Virginia and drives an Amazon van. Now, in describing these two women to you, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, well, these women obviously have nothing in common, right? One of them, she's gay, she's a Democrat, she lives in Florida, she's married to a woman. The other one, big Trump supporter, lives in West Virginia. In fact, what I found was nothing distinguished these women in terms of their ideology, their politics, and their views. Linda, the Trump supporter, is extremely pro-gay. She's very supportive of her gay nephew. She's from the South originally. She's very proud of how the country has changed when it comes to race relations. Her top issues are homeless veterans. She doesn't understand why we're supporting this war in Ukraine. And she's very upset about immigration. And Amy, same exact thing. Very pro-gay, obviously, very worried about the transgender agenda. Amy, who's gay, thinks that parents who take children to drag shows should be put in prison, doesn't understand why we're supporting the war in Ukraine, very upset about immigration. I mean, these women had very, very similar
And
viewpoints.
both supporting Trump?
Huh?
Both supporting Trump?
So Amy from Florida is a Democrat, but her wife is supporting Trump. Her wife likes Trump very much because she says he can't be bought.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. You mentioned Trump. I wasn't sure I was going to go there. Now I have to. So here's the question. In the book, you talk a lot about how the working class, a disproportionate number of people who you describe as working class, people who are in the trades, may not have a college education, but working really hard, electricians, plumbers, others. And a disproportionate number of those are supporting Donald Trump.
Yeah.
To what degree did you engage folks in a conversation about Donald Trump's documented history, not my opinion, of being a business person? Some of us who hire people to do contracting work in our home or whatever it is, we pay our bills. We pay them because they're working people and they deserve to get paid. I know you know that Donald Trump has a documented history of not only not paying a high percentage of those folks, but then declaring bankruptcy, I think 6 times, in order, in many cases, not to have to pay those bills. Where does that come into the conversation of all those working class folks who are so pro-Trump when Trump has a history as a private citizen, not my opinion, of giving the shaft to working people who worked for him in business? Is that an unfair, inaccurate characterization, Batya?
No, I don't think that's inaccurate. I have seen that reporting. I'll tell you something. I didn't go into these interviews to lecture people. I went into the interviews to hear from them. And by and large, what I found was people who were completely uninterested in Trump's character because they felt that the policy agenda that he had enacted during the 4 years of his presidency had put a lot of money in their pockets.
Such as?
And so, I'm sorry?
Such as? What policies?
So let's go through them one by one. So starting with trade, working class people think a lot about trade because to them, NAFTA was really the beginning of the end. Up until NAFTA, a little bit before that, but, through the 70s, they really felt that the trade that the United States engaged in respected and protected their labor and gave them a premium. And starting with, this NAFTA agreement, I mean, of course, the wheels had been turning a little bit before that, but NAFTA really solidified this view of we are going to offshore manufacturing to China and Mexico to build up their middle class. And of course, we've all seen the devastated communities throughout the Rust Belt and the Midwest as a
But what
result
did
of
Trump
that.
do? Because now he's talking about tariffs. If he were to be president again, which my understanding, I'm not an economist, would only increase prices and the cost of living for people who purchase those products. But what specific policies are so attractive to the people you talk to?
So Trump got rid of NAFTA, and the deal that they signed into law, the USMCA, the thing that he replaced NAFTA with is the most pro-labor trade deal the United States has ever signed into law. It has all sorts of provisions that in order for a car to be tariff-free coming into the United States, 75% of it has to be made by somebody making at least $16 an hour, which means that race to the bottom suddenly had a floor. And that had a huge impact on the auto industry, which if you talk to auto workers, they'll immediately tell you the policies that Trump put into place that protected them. He started a trade war with China. He put 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Steve, the average working pay for somebody working in steel is $88,000 a year. And this is in the South, where everything is right to work states. So these are non-union jobs paying $88,000 a year. In the South, that's a middle class wage. And that is 100% because of the tariffs that Trump slapped on China.
And President Biden has undone some of those things, in your view?
On trade, it's very interesting. President Biden has kept all of Trump's trade policies in place, which is great. And he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Hey kids, PBS Kids and Delta Dental want you to have a healthy smile. So here are some tips for you to remember. Number 1, eat plenty of crunchy fruits and vegetables. Number 2, brush your teeth after eating sugary snacks or drinking sodas. And number 3, drink lots of water to wash away food particles. When your teeth are happy, all of you is happy. From PBS Kids and Delta Dental, have a healthy smile.
Also brought to you by New Jersey Sharing Network, Veolia, resourcing the world. Delta Dental of New Jersey. Everyone deserves a healthy smile. NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. New Jersey Children's Foundation, giving all Newark students the opportunity to achieve. PSEG Foundation. Englewood Health. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, working for a healthier, more equitable New Jersey. And by Rutgers University, Newark.